government has made an announcement for setting up of the Public Debt Management Cell. It has set out a timeline of 2 years for transferring powers of the RBI. But do you think that a time period of 2 years is going to be enough for all the stakeholders to gear up?
In fact, the decision to set up a cell which will manage the process of transition over a period of 2 years, this decision has been taken in consultation with the Reserve Bank of India, and the Reserve Bank of India is entirely on board with this decision. We will be drawing from the expertise of the Reserve Bank of India. We will be also drawing some manpower support from the Reserve Bank of India, and the Finance Ministry, the Budget Division of Department of Economic Affairs and the Reserve Bank of India, they'll be working together in this particular cell to see that the process of transition is well managed.
Well, what about the legislative changes which would need to be made?
No, that details are being worked out. The cell has just been set up, and in fact already a lot of work has been done, and an attempt has been made also to draft to draft the necessary amendments and perhaps a new legislation. That process has already been commenced. We have exactly identified which provisions of which act need to be amended and what kind of what kind of shape the new law should have. And there is a lot of clarity on that, but things have to be finalized.
Will you take it to the Parliament during the winter session?
No, not certainly in this winter session. It's it will take a little more time. We have a window of 2 years. So it should be getting done within that window of 2 years.
Sure. Also, the black money collections by the government have been unprecedented. Are you expecting that the revenue deficit will substantially come down?
You see, the declarations which have been, come in is about 65,000 crores. The tax is at 45% of the declared amount. So let us say about 30,000 crores will be the tax amount, of which about 50%, roughly 15,000 crores will flow into the the consolidated fund during the current year. So to that extent, it is an additionality of resource which is available to the government of India, and this was not factored in the revenue numbers which were fixed as target for the current year.
Well, moving on to the issue of spectrum auctions which just concluded, the government has garnered around 65,000 crore rupees. This is way below expectations. What is the road ahead looking like?
You see, the TRAI recommendation was that if the entire spectrum which is available, if that is auctioned, government will get about revenue of about 5 to 5.25 lakh crores or so. Now, out of this, about roughly 4 lakh crores is in the 700 and 900 megahertz band, where there has been no bid. So therefore, that is the ammunition or that is the resource bucket which is still available, which has not yet been auctioned. Now, and government will take a decision where, with regard to 700 and 900 bands, government will take a decision about the way forward. The remaining spectrum in the other bands which have been put into, where there were bids, the expectation according to reserve price was that about 1.25 lakh crores would be received, against which the bid is roughly about, I think 65,679, or, about roughly 65,000 crores or so. Now, government has to take a decision. There is an interministerial group which will consider the bids, and the government will take a decision with regard to the confirmation of these bids, because a decision has to be taken whether you are accepting the bids or you are not accepting the bids. So that is something we have to await the decision of the government. But having said that, let me say that there are about 2 or 3 positives from this auction. Number one, the whole process has been very transparently done. The whole process has been very well managed. The electronic auction platform has functioned very well, and there were no complaints. There were roughly about 30 rounds of bidding over 5 days. I'll just complete. The second positive is that after 2010, I think in the last 4 auctions, this is the largest quantum of spectrum which has been which is being sold in one auction. That's the second positive. The third positive is that the operators who had some, who had some shortfall in spectrum availability. Now they have the entire quantum of spectrum they wanted. So therefore, with this additional spectrum which has now been auctioned, I think the operators should be in a position to provide the much better quality of service about which there were off and on complaints coming from the customers.
Well, do you think that the outcome of the spectrum auctions is a wake-up call for the government, for policymakers, that there is a need to rationalize pricing of spectrum?
You see, government is awake 24/7. The government never sleeps. The government works round the clock, 24/7, 365 days. And that is how governments function. Please remember that there was a recommendation given by the TRAI. The Telecom Commission considered it, recommended it to the government, and government accepted it. There were certain assumptions. Based on those assumptions, these reserve prices were fixed. Now that there is a kind of, what is the purpose of an auction? The auction is a kind of a price discovery. Now, before the auction, you make certain assumptions and you arrive at a certain reserve price. Now, in the auction, you know what is the market appetite, you know what has been the market response, which would be due to various factors. Now, both the things are now available to the government. So, government will examine both aspects and take a considered call.